Gentrification.
Miguel and his Uncle Bill are strolling through the streets of the East Village where Miguel's college is located.
I can't get over how much this neighborhood has changed.
For better or worse?
Both. It used to be more diverse. Now it's so gentrified.
What's wrong with gentrification?
For example, where we're walking now.
On St. Mark's Place?
Yes. In the 60s, it was where all the hippies hung out. Now it attracts people with green hair and pierced tongues.
To me, that just means the neighborhood's evolving.
Neighborhoods need to change to a degree. But see what just passed?
A tour bus.
Exactly. The East Village is not only attracting weirdos, but tourists too.
Yes. Sometimes I feel more like a performer than a pedestrian.
Now, some good things do come from that.
Right. Cleaner streets, more stores.
But this neighborhood isn't unique anymore.
Remember all those old buildings with fire escapes on the front?
More victims of gentrification.
What's wrong with owners renovating decrepit buildings?
Well, real estate values go up, and poorer people get pushed out.
It has gotten a bit too trendy around here.
Don't forget, it's the immigrants and older tenants who help shape the character of this neighborhood.
I guess gentrification works two ways. We gain a lot, but we lose a lot too.
Take this store. It used to be a Polish butcher shop.
Not anymore.
Over there. That used to be a Ukrainian social club.
Now it serves barbecued ribs to hungry students.
Years ago, this entire block was torn down to make way for one of your college dormitories.
I bet the community was furious.
I even marched in one of the protests.
What happened?
You tell me. These days, I can't tell if this is a neighborhood or a college campus.
The empty lot.
Carrie and her son, Jason, are discussing some new developments in the neighborhood.
Jason, have you noticed? The city's finally started construction in that empty lot.
I know. I can hear the pile drivers on my way to school.
Just remember to keep your distance.
Oh, Mom. How often do you get to watch a building go up?
We can watch it from our window. It's just too dangerous up close.
I could wear a hard hat or walk on the other side of the street.
Sorry. For the time being, you'll just have to figure out a safe route around it.
That lot's been empty for so long, I thought no one wanted it.
Oddly enough, it's been empty precisely because so many people wanted it.
I don't get it.
That was the last vacant city-owned lot in Lower Manhattan.
So that's why everybody was fighting over it.
Exactly.
Like who?
Well, a lot of civic leaders wanted to see a financial institution develop it. Others felt we needed more residential buildings in the neighborhood.
We do.
But community activists wanted a park or recreational facility.
They've got my vote on that.
So, for years, there was a stalemate.
But now they're finally building. So who won?
It was a bit of a compromise.
Everybody happy?
And unhappy. This building will be much taller than originally planned.
A high-rise? It'll ruin our view.
There'll be less sun for our trees.
Geez, isn't there anything good about it?
The building's taller, but it won't take up the entire block.
What'll fill the empty space?
New baseball fields with 2 diamonds.
Hey, now that's a compromise I can live with.
I suppose. But can you picture a 40-story building as an outfield fence?
I'd like to see the home run that breaks one of the top-story windows.
The heart of the city.
Miguel and Judy meet their friend Nick for a cocktail at Grand Central Terminal before he commutes home.
It's amazing. Thousands of people pass through Grand Central each day without stopping to look around.
Commuters are always in such a rush.
Not me. I'd rather sit in the lounge, kick back, and watch the world go by.
I'll drink to that.
Nick, don't you have a train to catch?
Not for an hour.
You must really like this place.
Oh, yeah. I get this sense of being in the heart of the city.
How long has this terminal been around?
since the early 1900s, way before we were born.
It sure doesn't show its age.
Where have you been, Judy? It just underwent a major facelift.
How would I know? It's not like I commute in and out of here every day.
So what are you saying? You can't appreciate the grandeur of the city unless you live in the suburbs?
Ironic, huh?
This renovation's gotten a lot of great press.
It should. It's very nice the way they redid it.
Just look up at the ceiling. It's like the night sky.
Oh, wow. You can see the constellations.
And they twinkle.
All but that little corner. See it? That's decades of filth they left unrepaired.
Speaking of filth, the area around 42nd Street has certainly improved.
Yeah, it used to be pretty sleazy.
It's hard to imagine that the city wanted to tear this place down.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, back in the 60s, there was talk of demolishing it.
Fortunately, lots of people rallied against it, even Jackie O.
But hasn't it been made a National Historic Landmark or something?
Yeah, but that wasn't till after the protests.
I guess you don't know what you've got till it's gone.
Or threatened.
Then let's toast the preservationists.
Cheers!
What makes a landmark?
Lee has accompanied her cousin, Emma, on a school field trip to an architectural firm. Okay, kids, answer this one. How does a building become an official landmark?
We just studied this in a city planning class I took.
Kids start early these days.
The city decides.
Very good. To be exact, the Landmarks Preservation Commission.
We've talked about this class. They're the agency responsible for what?
Identifying, designating, and regulating landmarks.
Very impressive.
The LPC's mission is admirable, but not without controversy. Only about 2% of the city's properties get designated official landmarks.
How come? Every building in New York looks old to me.
Well, it's not just about age.
Right. A building must be at least 30 years old, but there's more to it than that.
I'd imagine architectural significance has to be taken into account.
And cultural value.
Anything else?
Because the building's famous?
Good one, Emma.
On top of that, the LPC has 4 types of landmarks.
We know this class, remember?
There are individual landmarks, such as a building.
Interiors, like Broadway theaters, can be landmarks too.
And scenic areas, like Central Park.
Can't entire neighborhoods be designated historic districts?
Your students are really up on this.
They find it more exciting than math.
So what's the purpose of landmarking, kids?
We need to protect places that are important to us.
Tell me, why aren't more buildings landmarked?
Well, who's to say that one building is more worthy than another?
It's not always an easy call.
So the LPC is usually pretty conservative.
If it were up to me, I'd make every building in our neighborhood a landmark.
I'd landmark the zoo.
Well, the Bronx Zoo actually is an official landmark.
Doing a little brainstorming.
Lee and Judy drop in on the teaching assistant in one of Lee's classes to discuss her film project on New York's skyline.
What did you decide to do for your film project?
I'm focusing on the Empire State Building. For me, it epitomizes New York's skyline.
Wouldn't you say it's a bit overdone?
That's the challenge. I think it has such a dominating presence.
There's no question about its architectural significance, but you definitely need a fresh angle.
I know. Anyone got any fresh ideas?
Have you researched the history? You know, for context?
I've got lots of facts and figures. What I need is substance.
Tell us what you've got so far.
Well, it was built on the site of the original Waldorf Astoria Hotel.
That's a fun fact.
Yes. And when it was finished in 1931, it was the tallest building in the world.
So far, you haven't told me anything I don't already know, Lee.
How about this? It stayed the tallest for over 40 years.
That explains why people still think of it as the tallest modern building.
I've got an idea. Isn't the Empire State Building a National Historic Landmark?
So what if it's a National Historic Landmark?
Don't you see, Judy? The Empire State Building is the symbol of the modern skyline.
Right. So isn't it odd to also consider it a historic landmark?
Oh, I get it. When it was built, it was considered an engineering marvel.
Yet now there's something quaint about it. It's like stepping back in time.
Especially when you walk into its Art Deco lobby. All that attention to detail.
It's an odd contradiction.
Maybe, but I've always felt that New York is constantly remaking itself.
We are. We're so busy creating our future, we don't always notice when we make history.
Could the Empire State Building represent the future and the past?
That's an issue you can explore in your film project.
Exactly. It all depends on your point of view.
You can begin the film with interviews of people who witnessed history in the making.
Good thinking, Judy. We should make this a joint project.
When people talk about the cityscape of the future, many envision a forest of steel and glass skyscrapers towering over us. Jeff, do you think this race for the tallest building in the world will continue?
Well, as the excavations at Izumo and other sites in Japan show, people have liked building upward for a really long time. And if I were a young architect, maybe I'd want to build a 100-some-story structure too.
Really?
Yeah, maybe. But I'm not sure that this is the most significant trend in architecture right now.
What do you think is? I know there's a movement to use building materials that are less disruptive of the environment and to use better insulation or natural lighting to lower energy costs.
Yeah, that's quite important. And also, there's deeper interest in how the cityscape impacts the way we live. For example, a city like Los Angeles was built so people could get around freely in cars. But when people come to LA from Mexico or Central America, they complain, hey, you never get out of your cars.
Right. People don't interact with other people, right? Neighbors don't even know each other.
Exactly. So some architects are including in neighborhoods places where people can gather and sit and chat and get to know each other. Instead of lawns, people might have a flower garden with a comfortable bench in front of their house.
The rehumanizing of America.
Exactly.
You know, I also read recently about an architect from Iran who was very successful in designing skyscrapers, but has decided instead to design houses out of natural materials that have traditional elements, you know, especially domes and skylights.
Wow, that's great. Without some mystery or playfulness in buildings, everywhere is going to end up looking just the same.
Right. It's interesting how the more technologically sophisticated we become, the more we feel that technology needs a human context, a human touch. After all, buildings and cities are for people.
And now it's time to think about cultural life.